That thing's harmless, the alien admiral sneered, pointing at the purring fuzzball on my shoulder. I smiled politely. You're probably right, I said. 10 minutes later, he was vaporized mid-laugh. The creature in question, Snick, blinked lazily. No more than a fistful of fluff, with oversized ears and iridescent eyes that sparkled like candy. He squeaked once, rolled over on my shoulder, and began to nap. The Galactic Council's diplomatic chamber wasn't designed for pets, but no one had stopped me. Not yet, anyway. 3 species sat across from me. Gorvol, hulking war beasts with carbon armor fused into their hides. Nathari, lean and regal, all white silk and sharpened smiles. And Xerians, the insectoids who spoke in vibrations and rarely blinked. I sat alone at the human desk, relaxed, legs crossed, uniform sharp and unassuming. I was the only representative Earth had sent. One polite woman and a fuzzball. Is this some kind of joke? High Scholar Velth of the Nathari narrowed her narrow blue eyes. This is a summit of powers, not a zoo. Snick opened one eye and yawned. I gave her my warmest diplomatic grin. Apologies, Scholar. He gets anxious if I leave him behind. Think of him as an emotional support organism. Admiral Grohl roared with laughter, slamming his 4-clawed fist on the table. Emotional support? For what? Nuclear anxiety? Among other things, I replied, voice gentle as silk. They didn't know. Snick wasn't a pet. He wasn't even technically alive. What he was, exactly, I couldn't disclose. But every moment he curled up on my shoulder and purred, he was scanning, analyzing, calculating. His tail flicked. The Xerians noticed first. I watched their antennae quiver, their heads tilting slightly, as if hearing a distant sound. One of them buzzed softly. You brought a weapon, it said in its native frequency, audible only through my neural implant. I tilted my head. He's been napping for most of the meeting. Must be a terrifying nap. The Xerian didn't answer. But it didn't take its compound eyes off Snick again. High Scholar Velth leaned in. Is this really how your species negotiates, Lieutenant Commander Cross? With sarcasm and stuffed animals? I chuckled. Only when we're being underestimated. That earned a frown. The Nathari didn't like being mocked. They'd ruled diplomacy in this galaxy for centuries. Sleek, subtle manipulators who cloaked venom in velvet. The Gorvol? Brute force wrapped in ego. They believed strength alone dictated truth. The Xerians? Still an enigma. Watchers. Observers. They didn't laugh or sneer. They calculated. And humans? We adapted. We learned. And when necessary, we unleashed. My implant pinged. I tapped the pad beneath the desk. Flash alert. Gorvol cruiser Iron Howl has locked weapons on human vessel Andromeda V. Tactical analysis. 87% chance of hostile demonstration. Admiral Grohl smiled, all tusks and heat. Just a routine targeting exercise, he said. Surely your kind understands the need for strength in uncertain times. I looked up at him calmly. I'm sure your crew thinks they're making a point. Would you like me to call it off? He asked, voice dripping fake generosity. Snick stretched. His fur bristled, just slightly. Barely noticeable. I tilted my head toward Grohl. No need. I find live demonstrations educational. Veltha's eyes narrowed. You'll let them fire? I said they could try. A moment later, the station's outer monitors lit up. All eyes turned to the holodisplay. The Iron Howl, a mountain of steel in orbit, charged its plasma rail. Then, fire. A searing white lance tore across space, slamming into the Andromeda V's shields. The glow shimmered, held, then faded. No return fire. Looks like your toy survived, Grohl sneered. Snick vanished. Not blinked. Not jumped. Vanished. 1 second he was curled on my shoulder. The next, he wasn't. A chill spread through the chamber. Velf looked around. Where did it? The Zirian hissed, then turned to me. You've triggered it. I leaned forward, resting my chin on steepled fingers. No. He's just stretching his legs. The monitors began flickering. The Iron Howl's lights failed, one by one. Internal sensors glitched. Life signs fluctuated. Then, static. Blackouts. Chatter from its crew dissolved into screams and metal tearing. No external shots were fired. No breaches detected. And then, implosion. From the inside out, the ship folded like tinfoil, crushed in slow-motion silence. No explosion. Just a collapse. A ship that no longer existed. Snick reappeared on the desk, seated primly, tail swishing. He licked his paw like nothing had happened. The room was silent. Admiral Grohl had risen halfway out of his seat, breath caught in his throat. What did it do?" he rasped. I stood slowly, smoothed my uniform, and scooped Snick back into my arms. He squeaked and nuzzled my collar. "Honestly," I said cheerfully, "I don't know all the science. I just feed him." Velf stood too, face pale. "You brought a weapon of mass destruction to a peace summit." "No," I looked her dead in the eye. "I brought my support, Floof. The fact that he doesn't support you isn't my fault." "You'll pay for this," Grohl growled. I gave him a sad smile. "Oh, Admiral. You've already paid." The Zirians rose in unison. Their leader spoke softly. "We warned them." I nodded once. "Yes. You did." I walked toward the exit, Snick humming gently in my arms. As I passed the council's doors, I paused. "You asked what we brought to the table. Let's call that a sampler." And with that, we left. Behind us, the most powerful species in the galaxy sat in stunned silence, watching a human and her Floof stroll away from the ruins of a battleship. The diplomatic chamber was sealed. Emergency lockdown protocol. Nobody was laughing anymore. A Nathari aide whimpered quietly in the corner. Velf didn't scold him this time. Snick was back on my shoulder, purring softly. He'd curled up like nothing happened, as if he hadn't just deleted an entire warship from existence. I sipped my lukewarm coffee and sighed. Shame about the Iron Howl. Lovely design. Terrible shielding. Admiral Grohl stared at the floor, jaw locked, fists trembling. He hadn't moved in 5 minutes. Either shame or shock. Possibly both. Across the room, a new projection shimmered to life, footage from a station drone that had survived the incident. It replayed the moment Snick vanished, then cut to the battleship's internal footage. What little remained. They'd tried everything. Emergency power. Internal locks. Evacuation pods. None of it worked. Snick had moved like mist. Not with speed, with inevitability. Room by room, bulkhead by bulkhead, systems shut down. Crew collapsed, not from violence, but silence. Total, overwhelming silence. No blood. No screams. Just empty hallways and flickering lights. Then, collapse. Velf turned from the projection, face pale. "What is that thing?" "Snick." I glanced down at him. "He's my Floof. Isn't he adorable?" "I saw it liquefy a deck," she hissed. "Technically, the deck folded under stress when atmospheric pressure." I waved a hand. "Never mind. Science is messy." "You violated every galactic treaty on non-declared weapon systems," she snapped. I met her gaze without blinking. "You mean the treaties you drafted after colonizing 6 border systems, wiping out 3 sentient species, and building killsat rings around non-aligned planets?" That shut her up. The Zirian delegation hadn't spoken since the incident. Their antennae were twitching, almost rhythmically. Finally, one clicked its mandibles and buzzed a question. "What is Snick's purpose?" I turned to face them fully. "His purpose? Well, that depends." No answer. Just the sound of Snick softly grooming himself. The council room's door hissed open. Security droids rolled in, bulky, efficient, faceless. They formed a line between me and the council seats. One spoke in flat binary, human representative. Surrender the weapon. I raised a brow. You mean the kitten? The entity designated SNCC is classified as an unregistered biological threat. Strange, I said mildly. You didn't seem too concerned when the Gorval were firing on civilian transports. But a fuzzy little ball of attitude gets you twitchy. The droid processed that. Or didn't. Hard to tell with droids. Failure to comply will result in immediate termination. SNCC looked up. Just once. His eyes pulsed faintly. The same eerie iridescence that had shimmered seconds before the battleship had imploded. I gave the droid a friendly nod. Go ahead then. It fired. The bolt reached me. SNCC moved. Or more accurately, space around me blurred. Not bent. Not warped. Just erased. The bolt never landed. The droid staggered. Its chassis sparked once, then peeled open like tinfoil. No sound. Just metal unfolding into itself. SNCC perched where the droid had stood, head tilted. Then he bounced back to my shoulder, soft as a breeze. 10 droids remained. Only one fired. The rest turned and left. Smart choice, I muttered. Velth took a step back. That thing could assassinate every one of us and no one would see it coming. That's the point of camouflage, I replied. He's not built to be noticed. He's built to be underestimated. The Gorval admiral finally stirred. He stood slowly, eyes still locked on the now empty space where his ship once orbited. You could have stopped him. I nodded. I could have. Why didn't you? I stood too. Not out of aggression. Just clarity. Because you fired first, I said. And humans? We remember that. He clenched a fist. This is an act of war. No, I said quietly. This was a demonstration. The act of war. That comes next. That hung in the air. The Zirian delegate stepped forward. You want conflict? No, I said. We want respect. And you never gave us that. Velth whispered. So you threaten us with pets? I laughed. Oh, SNCC's just the first. We have others. Spick. Gnaw. Gurgle. One's disguised as a houseplant. That one wasn't a joke. SNCC squeaked. The chamber lights flickered. The Zirian looked up sharply. He's communicating. With your systems, I confirmed. Consider it a handshake. Another console went dark. The Gorval surged forward. Enough. You think we'll bow to a plush toy? SNCC blinked. The Admiral froze mid-step. He stopped breathing. SNCC didn't move. Didn't lunge. Didn't glow. And yet Grohl backed away like he'd seen death incarnate. What did he do? Velth whispered. Nothing, I replied. Yet. She glanced down at the curled-up creature now purring once more. And you're in control of it? Of course not, I said. I just ask nicely. The Zirian delegate's voice vibrated low. This isn't warfare. It's behavioral manipulation. I smiled. You're catching on. Outside the station's window, a small Earthship decloaked, non-threatening in size, unarmed by appearance. But the Council's system blinked red. Unauthorized proximity. Human craft. AI stealth field detected. Velth stepped back again. You brought a fleet? I tilted my head. No. Just one. That's all we need. Because Earth had never believed in overwhelming numbers. We believed in precision. In creatures that smiled before they tore you apart. The Zirian stepped forward again. Why show us this now? Because we asked to be included, I said. You ignored us. Mocked us. Laughed. I let my smile fade. Just a little. Enough for silence to land hard. So now, I added, we give you a reason not to forget us again. Snick mewled. The floor beneath the droid remains hissed, metal melting into a quiet puddle. No one moved. I turned, adjusted my jacket, and walked to the exit. Just before stepping through the door, I looked back. "Thank you all for your hospitality," I said pleasantly. "We'll be in touch." Snick waved a paw. Then the doors closed behind us. The hallway outside the council chamber smelled like polished metal and stale fear. I walked slowly, not because I was tired, but because panic follows silence, and I wanted them to sit with it. Snick nestled deeper into my collar. His tail ticked side to side like a metronome. Purring again. That sound, I'd learned, meant he was pleased. Or calculating. Usually both. A junior Zirian followed at a distance, legs clicking unevenly, trying not to be noticed. I said nothing. Let it watch. Let it learn. A message pinged into my implant. Secure channel. Priority 1. From Overwatch/Directive Coldstitch. Message. Phase 2 ready. Proceed if exposed. I closed the window. My fingers twitched once. That was all Snick needed. He understood the signal. He always understood. The briefing room back aboard Andromeda V was small, human-built, practical. No ornate lighting. No ego architecture. Just matte panels, filtered air, and a thermos of hot coffee waiting beside the console. Comfort with a kill switch. A screen blinked on. Admiral Tenzin appeared, arms crossed, expression unreadable. "You lit the match," he said. "They poured the fuel." He sighed. "The iron howl? Folded like laundry. And the council?" I leaned back. Rattled. But not broken yet. He stared at Snick, who had taken to gnawing gently on a pen. "How many know what it really is?" "3 species suspect," I said. "1 understands. None are prepared. You'll need to show them more." I smiled faintly. "That's why I fed him earlier." Tenzin chuckled once, low and dark. "Proceed." The screen went dark. The council reconvened under pressure. No cameras this time. No reporters. Just fear behind protocol. They requested my presence. I didn't decline. Velth stood at the center. Not seated, not lounging, standing. Formal and stiff. The Nathari had perfected elegance under pressure, but her tone cracked. "We require clarification." I sipped water. "Of what, exactly?" "The creature." I blinked. "Snick." "He's not a Snick," she snapped. "He's a violation of every known bioweapon law." "No," I said. "He's a correction." The Zirian delegate clicked in agreement. "Your species was underestimated." I gave a courteous nod. "A common mistake. We don't flash claws. We wear sweaters. We don't roar, we negotiate. And we don't strike first, but we make sure no one gets a second chance." Veltha's expression was unreadable. "So this was a performance?" I shrugged. "You called it a summit. We called it a test." Grohl growled. "You use pets as threats." "No," I said calmly. "We use expectations as weapons." Snick leapt onto the table and sat. His eyes glowed, just once. Not threatening. Just awake. The Zirian leaned forward. "What else have you built like this?" "Do you really want to know?" I asked, meeting all their eyes one by one. None answered. "Exactly," I said. Velth folded her hands. "And what is it you want now?" I let silence hold. Then, respect. That's not a diplomatic term. "Neither is extinction," I said softly. "Yet here we are." Grohl slammed his hand down. "You threaten the galaxy with fuzzballs." I stood slowly, hands at my sides. "Let me tell you something about Earth," I said. "We didn't survive because we were stronger. We weren't the biggest or the fastest. We didn't have claws or scales. We had something better. Imagination. and the patience to turn absurdity into annihilation. Velth frowned. Is this a declaration of war? No, I replied. This is a demonstration of restraint. A new projection lit up behind me, Earth's orbital array. It showed dozens of non-human vessels now being escorted by Snick's siblings. No alarms. No attacks. Just an undeniable presence. Some were birds. Some insects. One looked like a pile of jelly-wearing glasses. All adorable. All devastating. Velth stared, mouth parted. How long have you had these? Long enough to name them alphabetically. Grohl's voice dropped. And you kept this hidden? We kept it quiet, I corrected. You didn't ask. You assumed. We let you. The Xerian delegate stepped forward. Why reveal now? I turned to Snick. He squeaked once. I faced them again. Because Earth is tired of being invited last, seated farthest, and spoken to like a child. Veltha's lips pressed together. You're threatening the council. No, I said. I'm giving you an opportunity. Recognize our seat at the table, or you'll watch it get pulled out from under you. The Xerian nodded once. Noted. Grohl still looked furious. If one more Floof enters our space, we'll consider it an act of. Snick growled. A soft, high-pitched squeaky growl. It sounded like a chew toy being compressed. But Grohl froze mid-sentence. His data pad sparked. He dropped it. Stepped back. Sat down. Snick jumped back to my shoulder. Meeting adjourned, I said. No one disagreed. Back on Andromeda V, I stood before the viewport. Dozens of council ships remained in silent orbit. None moved. Snick curled up by the display panel, one eye open. My implant pinged again. Directive cold stitch. Phase 2 confirmed. Initiate strategic integration. Earth was no longer asking for recognition. We were installing it. One system at a time. I tapped Snick gently. Let's go introduce the rest of the family. The shipyard above Helion, 3 was the size of a moon and twice as arrogant. Defense rings, tracking arrays, mining lasers, and a permanent patrol of A-class interdictors gave it the illusion of safety. The Vashni built it with one purpose: intimidate. So we brought Snick. The transport we arrived in was unarmed, old, and intentionally scuffed. One engine sputtered. A cargo manifest listed diplomatic aid and plush bioforms. No alarms triggered. That was mistake number 1. I sat across from Commander JL of the Helion Guard in a glass-walled security room that overlooked the shipyard's core. She wore a uniform stiff with regulation and a face carved from suspicion. You were not scheduled, she said flatly. I smiled politely. Emergencies aren't scheduled either. Snick sniffed the edge of her desk, tail flicking with deliberate slowness. I reviewed your records, JL continued. You're a diplomat. Not fleet. Not weapons division. Not classified. Correct. Then why is a Tier 4 containment protocol shadowing your presence? Because he's in the room, I said, nodding toward Snick. JL looked at the tiny creature now curling up beside her mug. That's a security hazard? Snick blinked at her. Only if you have something to hide, I said calmly. She stared, then opened a hololog. Redacted lines scrolled fast. One stopped midway. Excessive lethality during containment drills. Recommend non-proximity storage. That's overstatement, I offered. You wrote it. Ah. Then it's accurate. They gave us a tour, more out of fear than diplomacy. Snick walked ahead of us, silent as fog, tail up like a parade flag. Crew members paused, uncertain. Some stepped aside. One tried to pet him. Snick chirped. The man's datapad crashed. His wristband shorted. He didn't try again. JL kept her tone neutral. Your arrival has disrupted coordination across 6 sectors. Consider it calibration. She narrowed her eyes. What is your actual mission here? I looked through the glass at the fleet docks, vessels longer than cities, hulls gleaming with sovereign power. To remind you that scale doesn't mean dominance. JL stopped walking. This station is sovereign Vashni ground. Interference is an act of war. So is ignorance, I said quietly. Behind us, Snick stared at the primary reactor shielding. A low, rhythmic purr started. The shielding began to hum back. JL blinked. What's it doing? Just listening, I replied. For now. I was escorted to a conference chamber with high-ranking Vashni strategists. The atmosphere buzzed with the kind of tension you get before someone either offers you a treaty or poisons your drink. Admiral Reth of the Vashni Confederacy sat at the head, arms folded, voice taut. Explain why we shouldn't detain you. I placed a small box on the table. It clicked once. Snick sat on it. A hologram flickered to life above him, recordings from the Iron Howl incident. Aboard the screen, Snick shredded through containment fields and neutralized a squadron in under 90 seconds, then curled up atop a dropped helmet. I turned the projection off. You came here to flaunt a weapon? Reth asked. No, I said. To warn you. We didn't start building these for conquest. Then what for? Survival. I leaned in. You call them murder floofs in private reports. But they're not weapons. They're proof. Proof that Earth stopped playing by galactic rules the moment the galaxy broke its promises. Reth's tone dropped. You want us to be afraid. Not afraid, I said. Cautious. Snick tapped the box. A second hologram opened. This time, it showed 3 more creatures, variations on a theme: claws, fur, purrs, and impossible efficiency. One unspooled a battleship's engine coils like yarn. Another disabled an AI core with a single look. Are those on board with you? Reth asked slowly. I didn't answer. He stood. Your threats won't work here. I agree. Snick's eyes glowed. Red, then green. Then black. Every system in the room dimmed. The lights returned 10 seconds later. Reth's comm device was gone. His security implant had been deactivated. Snick sneezed. JL whispered, That wasn't an attack? No, I said. That was him being polite. We left the room in silence. Snick didn't bother walking now. He rode my shoulder, tail curled like punctuation. Back aboard our shuttle, I sent one message. To Earth Strategic Command. Status: Vashni Network exposed. Assets: secure. Phase 3. Ready. As we launched, the shipyard lights flickered behind us. A warning. Not an act of war. Yet. On the return path, JL finally spoke. What happens if the Council rejects your demands? They won't. But if they do? I looked out at the stars. Then we stopped smiling. Snick purred again. The sound echoed across the cabin like a countdown.